The air in the precinct turned to ice. 1 second, Officer Mark Dawson was laughing, scratching Rex behind the ears like he'd done 1,000 times before. The next, 80 pounds of muscle, fur, and fury launched at his throat. This wasn't just a bite, it was an execution. Rex's teeth gleamed under the fluorescent lights, his snarl echoing off the walls. Every cop in the room froze. Because a K9 doesn't turn on its handler unless that handler has already turned traitor first. Mark's hands shot up instinctively, not to defend, but to deny. "Rex? Buddy, it's me." His voice cracked like thin ice. But Rex didn't wag his tail, didn't whine. The dog's eyes were black pits of betrayal. His lips curled back over teeth that had once taken down armed suspects. Now they were aimed at the man who'd fed him, trained him, lied to him. And in that moment, Mark knew. The jig was up. The only witness to his crimes had 4 legs and a nose that never forgot. Chairs screeched. Coffee cups shattered. Someone yelled, "Taser." Another screamed, "Rabies." But rookie Jake Rivera? He saw what others missed. Rex's tail wasn't tucked between his legs like a scared dog. It was stiff as a rifle barrel. And those barks? Not panic. Purpose. Jake's eyes dropped to Mark's sleeve. There, clinging to the fabric like guilty confetti, were flakes of white powder. The same powder Rex had alerted to in last week's drug bust. The same powder Mark swore he'd never touched. The sound that tore from Rex's throat wasn't a growl. It was a siren. A desperate, guttural alarm that shook the precinct windows. He wasn't trying to kill Mark. He was trying to expose him. With every snap of his jaws, he was screaming what the cops were too blind to see. "This man reeks of lies, of blood money, of the informant who vanished last Tuesday. But humans? They need proof." And Rex was about to deliver it. In the worst way possible. Asterisk, 24 hours earlier. In a shadowed parking garage, Mark had patted Rex's head and whispered, "Stay." Then he'd taken the duffel bag, the one that smelled like chemical death and dirty dollars. He'd wiped his hands after, changed his shirt. But a K9's nose? It remembers what soap can't erase. Now, as Rex's teeth sank into Mark's arm, it wasn't flesh he was tearing. It was the mask off a murderer. Asterisk. Plink. The first drop hit the badge's surface, warping Mark's reflection into something monstrous. Plink. The second rolled down the engraved "Serve and Protect" motto. Rex had saluted this badge every morning for 3 years. Had nuzzled it when Mark pinned it on with pride. Now, he was treating it like evidence. Because that shiny piece of metal? It was the biggest lie of all. Like a prosecutor presenting Exhibit A. Rex clamped down on the sleeve and marched across the room. The fabric tore with a sound like a scream. Buttons popped like gunshots. And when he dropped the jacket at Chief Rollins' feet, the old man's breath stopped. There, on the cuff, was a smear of red. Not blood. Evidence dye, the kind they spray on drug money. The kind Mark swore he'd never touched. The kind that matched the $250,000 that vanished with informant Carlos Mendez. The chief's fingers trembled as he peeled back the lining. The station held its breath. Then clink. A tiny brass key hit the floor. The master key. The one that opened evidence locker 12. The one that had gone missing the night Carlos's body camera footage was erased. And in that moment, every cop in the room understood. Rex wasn't just a dog. He was the only honest cop left. Mark's voice rose to a shriek. "The dog's broken. He's dangerous." But the irony? It was beautiful. The K9 they'd trained to sniff out corruption had just exposed the rot at its core. And as Rex stood there, chest heaving, eyes blazing, he wasn't just a police dog anymore. He was the jury, the judge, and if Mark moved again, the executioner. When the gunshot came, it wasn't from Mark's weapon. It was from rookie Jake's, a single bullet to the thigh, precise as a surgeon's cut. As Mark crumpled, Rex finally relaxed. His tail gave one slow wag. Not for the man he'd taken down, for the justice he'd served. Because in the end, the bad dog had done what good cops couldn't. He'd bitten through the lies and set the truth free. Asterisk, rewind the tape 2 years, and you'd see a different dog, a different man. Rex bounding through obstacle courses like a black and tan tornado. Mark grinning as the top K9 team plaque gleamed on his locker. Back then, Rex's nose was legendary. 3 drug busts in 1 week. Found a missing girl under 12 feet of rubble. But his greatest trick? Believing the man who strapped that badge on every morning was a hero. Asterisk. They called him the truth sniffer behind his back. While other dogs alerted to narcotics or explosives, Rex, he'd whine at liars, a suspect's twitching fingers, a lawyer's too quick blink, even the chief's coffee breath when he fudged overtime reports. But when Rex started growling at certain cops, at their lockers, their patrol cars, they laughed it off. "He's tired," they said. "False alert," they wrote in the logs. The only false thing was their courage to face what Rex already knew. It started small. A rumble when Detective Briggs handed Mark a case file. A snarl when Officer Hale adjusted his vest near the evidence room. The others joked Rex was going rogue. But the rookie, Jake, he noticed how Rex's ears pinned back only around cops who'd served with Mark for years. Noticed how the dog's hackles rose when the midnight shift crew clustered together, whispering. Most of all, he noticed Rex's eyes, always locked on Mark's hands after those hushed conversations, like he was waiting for them to stain. The courtroom erupted when Rex lunged, not at the cuffed drug lord in the suit, at his shiny leather briefcase. Mark yanked the leash hard. "Hail!" But Rex didn't heal. He howled, like the case was a live wire. Later, when the judge ordered it opened, they found more than legal papers. They found a photo. Mark and the suspect at a yacht party last summer, grinning, clinking champagne glasses, and scribbled on the back, "Payment number 3 delivered." Rex hadn't alerted to drugs that day. He'd alerted to the truth. The drugs from last month's big bust? Baking soda. The murder weapon from the O'Connor case? A prop from some B-movie. Rex had been trying to tell them for weeks. His barks weren't mistakes, they were corrections. But the louder he got, the tighter Mark cinched his muzzle on patrol. "Distractions get cops killed," he'd say, buckling the strap. Funny. The only thing getting killed was the truth. 3 Uhr nachts. The precinct empty. Just the flicker of exit signs and Rex's claws clicking down the hall. He scratched at Mark's locker like digging a grave. When that failed, he did something he'd never done before. He grabbed Mark's gym bag and dragged it to Jake's desk. Inside, a burner phone. A single text lit up the screen. "Mendez knows. Handle it." Jake didn't know then that Carlos Mendez was an informant. Didn't know he'd vanish by dawn. But Rex, he knew. And that night, for the first time in his career, the proud K9 put his head between his paws and cried. Not digging, demolishing. Tile shards flew as Rex's claws tore into the floor. The night guard laughed. Damn dogs lost it. But Jake crouched down and saw what Rex smelled. A faint bleach trail leading to the evidence room drain. The same drain where, if you swabbed it, you'd find traces of Carlos Mendez's blood type. The drain where someone had rinsed a knife. Asterisk. When Rex alerted, you found something. Always. So when Mark chalked it up to bad kibble, when the chief ordered Rex reevaluated for instability, every cop in that room made a choice. The ones who looked away. They were guilty. The ones who suddenly volunteered for night shifts. Guiltier. Jake? He was the only one who dropped to his knees beside Rex and whispered, "Show me." And that's how the rookie and the washed-up K9 became the last hope for a department that was already dead. Asterisk. Carlos Mendez's cell went straight to voicemail. His apartment cleared out, but not by Carlos. By someone who left a single fingerprint on the fridge, right where the milk carton should have been. The same print that unlocked Mark's iPad. The same iPad where, buried under cat videos, was a photo of Carlos. Alive, terrified, duct tape over his mouth. Dated the night Rex first dug at that drain. Jake would swear to God it wasn't just barks. It was words. Choked, desperate, human. Like whatever Rex had smelled in that drain had crawled into his lungs and was trying to escape. The next morning they found Carlos. Or what was left of him. And as the coroner zipped the bag, Rex did something no training manual could explain. He placed his paw on the body and howled. Not a dog's howl. A eulogy. The syringe gleamed in the fluorescent light. Chief Rollins didn't meet Rex's eyes as he nodded to the vet. Do it. But Dr. Vasquez hesitated. Rex wasn't frothing or snapping, he was trembling, like a soldier holding back a secret too big for his rank. And when the needle pricked his skin, his last whine wasn't pain. It was a warning. The kind you only ignore once. Dr. Vasquez's fingers froze on Rex's pulse point. This wasn't aggression. It was grief. The same tremor she'd seen in K9s who'd lost partners in the line of duty. But Rex's partner was right there. Alive, breathing, sweating bourbon and lies through his pores. Unless Rex wasn't mourning Mark. He was mourning what Mark used to be. Jake's flashlight caught the glint under the squad car seat. Not a phone, a graveyard. 12 texts lighting up like a crime scene. Evidence handled. Mendez quiet. K9 suspicious. And the kicker? A photo attachment. Mark posing with Carlos's bloody shirt like a trophy. Timestamp. 1 hour after Rex had dug at that drain. Handle. Like Carlos was a package. Like the truth was a spill to wipe up. The messages kept coming. K9 problem. Need vet to say rabies. $20K for accident. But the cartel boss's final reply? That's what turned Jake's stomach. No loose ends. Remember the dog. Rex hadn't been Mark's partner that night. He'd been a target. The puzzle pieces clicked, the growls at certain lockers. The way Rex had peed on Mark's gym bag twice last month. Not misbehavior. A message in the only language cops understand. This man smells guilty. But humans need spreadsheets and subpoenas. Rex, he had fangs. And tonight, he'd use them. Asterisk, Jake spread the files across the floor. Every time Rex had acted out. The tainted drug bust, the planted murder weapon, the suicide in holding cell 3 Mark had been first on scene. Always with the same line. Damn dogs unreliable. But the evidence board didn't lie. Rex's so-called mistakes? They were a map. And at the center stood Mark with blood on his badge and a shovel in his trunk. Asterisk. Mark's performance deserved an Oscar. The shaky hands. The fake tears. After all I've done for him. He even showed the scar where Rex had viciously bitten him last year. Funny thing? The vet records told a different story. That bite was a defensive wound. From when Rex had ripped a knife from Mark's hand during an evidence search. The same knife that later vanished. Along with the homeless witness who'd seen it. Jake unclipped Rex's collar. Not a tag, a microcamera. Department issued for training exercises. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Mark stuffing Carlos's phone into an evidence locker, then taking it out 30 seconds later. The timestamp? 3 minutes before Rex had started howling at that drain. The camera had run all night, and it kept recording when Mark knelt by Rex's kennel later, whispering, "One bark about this, and you're euthanized." Jake unclipped Rex's collar. Not a tag, a microcamera. Department issued for training exercises. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Mark stuffing Carlos's phone into an evidence locker, then taking it out 30 seconds later. The timestamp? 3 minutes before Rex had started howling at that drain. The camera had run all night, and it kept recording when Mark knelt by Rex's kennel later, whispering, "One bark about this, and you're euthanized." Not just any gunpowder. The rare Serbian blend used in cartel assassinations. The same blend found in Carlos's skull. And the cocaine? Cut with a chemical marker the DEA used to track dirty cops. Rex had smelled it all. The lies, the gun oil, the death. Clinging to that badge like a curse. But here's what broke the jury. The tests also found Carlos's DNA. Under Mark's fingernails. In his pores. Like he'd dug the grave himself. Carlos's autopsy photo flashed on the courtroom screen. Not the cleaned-up version, the raw truth. The ligature marks on his wrists matched the rope in Mark's boat. The dirt under his nails matched the abandoned quarry Rex had led them to, digging frantically at a fresh patch of earth. And the last thing Carlos ever wrote? scratched into his own skin with a paperclip. Tell Rex I tried. The dog had heard. And tonight, so would the world. The paperwork said, early retirement for behavioral issues. The syringe in the vet's drawer said something darker. Jake caught the order by accident, saw the chief's signature next to Mark's smug smile. But Rex, he already knew. That morning he'd refused breakfast. Not in protest, in preparation. Because a K9 doesn't eat before a mission. And tonight, his mission was survival. One by one, the handlers stepped forward. Briggs with his scarred face from the warehouse explosion. Hale with her prosthetic leg. All the cops Rex had saved over the years. They formed a wall between him and the vet's office, leashes in hand like weapons. The message was clear. Touch him, and you answer to every K9 in this city. The chief's face turned purple. You take a dog's word over mine. Briggs didn't blink. We are. Rex moved like a shadow through the pines, nose never leaving the ground. Jake followed, heart hammering. The cabin wasn't on any maps, just a rotting shack with fresh tire tracks out front. As Rex scratched at the door, a sound cut through the trees that didn't belong in nature. A whimper, human, weak, and coming from underground. The smell hit first, copper and bleach and something sweetly rotten. The cash was neat, banded with cartel stickers. The body bag wasn't. The zipper was half open, revealing a hand with a police tattoo. Carlos's. No, the fingers were feminine. The nails painted blue. The same shade as that missing rookie from Metro last winter. The one Mark had comforted after her shift. Rex let out a howl that shook dust from the rafters. This wasn't a cabin. It was a trophy room. The gunmetal flash was all Rex needed. He launched, not at Mark's arm but his face, those lying lips that had called him partner. The bullet went wide, splintering wood as they crashed through the cabin door. Snow soaked up the blood, but not the sound. Not Rex's savage snarls. Not Mark's screams. And definitely not Jake's voice, steady as stone. Rex, AUS, let him live, so he can rot in prison. The ER doctor would later say the damage was surgical. One canine tooth through Mark's cheek, severing the nerve that controlled his smirk. Another through his shooting hand, ending his trigger pulls forever. But the real wound? When Rex spat out the chunk of Mark's ear onto the evidence table. Still attached was the diamond stud, the same rare blue diamond from that robbed evidence locker. The one Carlos had been investigating. Rex didn't just maim Mark that night. He entered Exhibit A. Not Mark's badge. An older one, tarnished and bent. The chief's breath caught. He knew that shield number. Knew the cop who'd carried it. His own brother, killed in the line of duty 10 years back. The brother whose widow had always insisted he'd been murdered. The brother whose case file Rex had been scratching at in records last month. The message was clear. You helped Mark bury bodies? Start digging your own. Detective Sarah Wright's badge was crusted with dirt and something darker. She'd been internal affairs. Been asking about Mark's sudden wealth. Been last seen walking to her car with the chief after a private briefing. Now here she was, or what Rex had found of her, in a shallow grave by the cabin's septic tank. The dog's paws were raw from digging. Not for evidence. For justice. The courtroom screen lit up with texts. Wright's getting close. Make it look like suicide. Use the K9's prints. Mark hadn't just framed Rex. He'd planned to have him euthanized for Sarah's murder. But Rex had done what good cops do. He'd preserved the crime scene. Left Sarah's badge untouched until the right moment. And when Mark lunged at Jake in court, well, let's just say the jury didn't mind the attack. Not when the victim had Sarah's blood under his nails. As the judge read the sentence, life without parole, Rex didn't wag, didn't bark. He simply rested his head on Sarah's empty chair, one ear cocked toward the exit, like he was waiting for the next dirty cop to walk in. Because this wasn't over. It would never be over. Not while one good K9 still drew breath, and had teeth sharp enough to tear corruption out by the roots. They scrubbed the reports, retired badge numbers, even burned the evidence photos. But you can't erase what lives in the hush stories cops tell over whiskey at 3 a.m. How a dog did what internal affairs couldn't. How Rex would patrol the station after midnight, sniffing at lockers. His growl the only polygraph that mattered. New recruits called it superstition. The veterans? They'd freeze when his ears perked up near certain desks and start updating their resumes. It began with Briggs Shepard refusing to enter the narcotics vault. Then Hales Malinois pissing on the deputy commissioner's tires. Within months, 3 retirements, and 1 very panicked resignation later, the message was clear. The dogs had always known. Now the humans were finally brave enough to act. The K9 unit's new motto, stenciled above their kennels in bold letters: sniff, alert, bite if necessary. Jake's hands shook the first time he clipped the leash on. Rex could have demolished him. The dog had taken down suspects twice his size. Instead, he licked the rookie's palm where Mark's bullet had grazed him. A pack sealed in salt and scars. Their first case together? A suicide in the evidence room. Rex took one whiff of the dead cop's collar and clamped onto the commissioner's sleeve. The gunshot residue test came back positive before the body was cold. Detective Monroe never saw it coming. 1 second he's laughing about Rex's lucky streak. The next, the dog's teeth are buried in his custom Italian loafers, right where the cocaine residue pooled in the stitching. The genius had stored his stash in the heels. Impossible to smell, he'd bragged at the poker game. But Rex didn't smell it. He felt it. The same way he felt earthquakes before they hit. Corruption has a vibration. And this cop, he was a 9.0 on the Richter scale. Asterisk, they taught Rex to chase suspects, not corruption. To alert to drugs, not deceit. Yet somehow, this 85-pound bundle of muscle and fur had developed something no academy could instill: a conscience. Maybe it came from licking tears off abused kids during rescues. Maybe from the way bad cops always smelled like sweat-soured fear. Whatever it was, Rex had become the living embodiment of that old plaque in the lobby. To protect and serve. Even if it meant protecting the force from itself. Asterisk. The prison gates clanged shut just as the mayor draped the ribbon around Rex's neck. For exceptional service. The medal was bronze, shaped like a snarling dog's head. Jake had to hold back laughter. It looked exactly like Rex's "I smell bullshit" expression. Across town, Mark screamed into his cell phone about appeals. Rex, he chewed the medal into a mangled lump that night. Not disrespect. A message. Symbols don't matter. Only the work does. Asterisk, the new commissioner learned this the hard way. He'll get used to me, he chuckled, reaching to pet Rex. The growl started in the dog's toes, rattled up through his ribs, and exploded into a snarl that left piss-yellow stains on the man's tailored pants. Turned out, his nephew was a cartel lieutenant. Rex knew before anyone else. The commissioner resigned the next day. Health reasons, the press release said. The K9 unit's betting pool had him fleeing to Belize by Sunday. Asterisk. Asterisk, the stats told the story. Use of force incidents down 62%. Whistleblower reports up 400%. And for the first time in department history, every single K9 handler refused the hazard pay bonus. We're not the ones at risk anymore, Jake told the baffled payroll clerk. Outside, Rex basked in the sun. His scars glowing silver, his ears twitching at every siren. The bad old days were over. The new rule was simple. You lie, you lose. And the best lie detector walks on 4 legs and demands belly rubs after executions. Asterisk. Law is paperwork and loopholes. Justice? That's a wet nose nudging a grieving widow's hand. A pole resting on a scared kid's foot during testimony. A growl that says, I remember when a slick lawyer walks by. Rex's secret wasn't his nose. It was his memory. The way he never forgot a scent, a face, or a broken promise. The brass called it canine instinct. The street cops knew better. They called it what it was. The last honest soul in a broken system. Asterisk when Rex finally passed. Not in some heroic shootout, but quietly, in Jake's arms with a belly full of stolen donuts. The entire force showed up. Even the cops he'd busted. They stood at attention as the 21-gun salute echoed. Not for a pet, for the partner who'd forced them to be better. As the last shot faded, Jake unclipped Rex's collar and hung it on the precinct door. Not a memorial, a warning, because somewhere out there another puppy was being trained. Another nose learning to sniff out lies. And this time, the humans would listen. Asterisk. And so, Rex's legacy lived on. Not just in the polished K9 memorial outside the precinct, but in every cop who hesitated before crossing the line. In every rookie who knelt to meet their dog's eyes, searching for that same unshakable truth. The world moved on. Criminals got smarter. Badges got shinier. But somewhere out there, a new K9 tilts its head at a handler's suspicious whisper and remembers. The question is, will you? What part of Rex's story shook you the most? Was it his loyalty, his rage, or the terrifying idea that sometimes justice wears a collar and bites back? And if you could change one thing, would you let Mark live with his guilt? Or did Rex's teeth deliver the only sentence that truly fit? Tell us. Because every story like this isn't just about a dog. It's about who we choose to be when the world stops watching. Comment your thoughts. Heroic K9 or vigilante animal? Should justice ever come from fangs? And what would you have done if you were Jake?